8 Realms of Employee Wellness. I'm Allison Sabula, a founder and consultant at Tend Collective. And Tend Collective, we're working to create, with many of you, workplaces and communities where we genuinely care about each other. So, this is an 8-part series. This is part 7, so getting to the end that I've been doing all summer. So happy first week of September. Many of you may be starting school, maybe like a college, university program, or sending your kids to school this week. So it's always a fun time of year with a lot of new beginnings. Maybe a little bittersweet as vacations wind down. So let's start. So today, the realm that we're going to talk about is communication and conflict, which is one of my favorite things to talk about. So today we'll do a regulation activity. We'll talk about employee wellness and communication and conflict and our assessment tool and how Tend Collective can help. So today's regulation activity is to shake it out. So this was something that I learned when I was first starting to get in the trauma-informed care world. I think it's in classic books like The Body Keeps the Score, and books by like Gabor Mate and Bruce Perry. I think these things are in here, but I think it's in, and so for those of you who are watching live, if you want to comment, I think it's covered in The Body Keeps the Score. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. But I think the example is like when you're watching a dog that's really activated, maybe you chasing after something, or having a intense moment, the dog will shake its whole body to release that energy. And a lot of mammals do this, where there's a nervous system activation, where we're mobilized to fight or flee or freeze, do something to keep us alive. So that mobilization happens really fast. And then we need to discharge the energy. So if you're in a place where you don't feel too silly, you can follow me in shaking out any stress that you might be holding on to today in your body. And so if you're sitting there, you can just do your upper body and you can shake your head and your shoulders and your arms and your rib cage and just feel what that feels like. And you could even sigh and just see what that feels like. Now for me, what I end up feeling is like a little bit of a sensation that you might call like the chills, but it's nice. It really feels like a nice release of tension. So for me, when I do this type of activity, I really, really do feel that tension melting away. So let me know if shaking it out is something that you do regularly, but it's something that, oh, you know what? Now I'm remembering Peter Levine's books. It's really heavily featured in Peter Levine's books about waking the tiger. And he is really recommending shaking it out a lot in his, okay, I was like, it's bugging me, who's covering this really diligently? It's Peter Levine. So he has written a whole bunch of books on trauma and trauma healing and how we carry trauma in the body that have been so healing for me. So definitely check out his books. And he talks a lot about making sure we discharge the energy, including, he gives an example in one of his books of someone maybe like tripping and falling on the ground, and that our first inclination is to pop back up really fast, or if we see someone, pull them up and just get them to shake it off. And what we want to do instead is maybe even if we're a passerby, bystander, to meet them on the ground and maybe just put a hand, on their back, and make sure they have a moment to collect themselves and discharge that energy, because our body will mobilize to make sure that we are safe as we're falling. And so you may just want to make sure that this person is, this is happening slowly and with the presence of an empathetic witness. Or if it's you, you can be your own empathetic witness. And wow, I'm sure I'm feeling embarrassed that that happened, but I'm just going to sit here for a minute and take a breath and then shake it out. I can remember the first time using this strategy after I learned it, after reading one of his books. I had hit my head really hard on a hatchback car vehicle, back hatch. And I hit my head on it. It hadn't gone up all the way. And instead of just pretending it didn't happen, which maybe could have caused, maybe I would have gotten like a really big headache later in the day. Instead, I just said to my friend who was also in the car, I need to take a minute. And I sat down and I really felt the pain. I really let myself take a few deep breaths. And then I did some of this shaking, really felt like I released because I'd hit it really hard. And to my knowledge, I didn't suffer any long-term negative consequences as a result. I think this practice, really works, but I would be curious to hear if you're also trying it. And again, the reason we do these regulation activities when, if you want to hire us to train your staff at your workplace or to help with the populations that you serve, if you're an agency or nonprofit that's working with children and families, we do a regulating activity because when we feel regulated and present, we can learn better. So employee wellness is such a huge problem in the United States, and that's why we started 10 Collective. So, those of us who founded this company together have worked together at other places and found that employers were asking us to care a lot about children and families and other vulnerable people, but they weren't treating their employees with that same trauma-informed care that they wanted us to treat other people with. And so we thought, wouldn't it be great to use these same trauma-informed principles of care to help companies learn how to care about their employees? And we're feeling really a lot of gratitude to get to work with a lot of the clients that we work with to help do this. I can hear a garbage truck picking up garbage on the street. So I don't know if you can hear that too, but that is there. And I'm feeling, to label like my emotion, I'm feeling distracted and irritated, and we'll work on labeling emotions today. So it's even closer. So this is from the Surgeon General's report on employee wellness, but employees in the United States are experiencing a lot of mental health challenges and saying that their workplace conditions contribute to their mental health challenges. So that's bad. We think that workplaces can be a refuge for employees, and that we know that it feels so different when we feel safe at work and have a really productive work environment and a really healthy work environment, that this can make a difference for our whole entire life. So to find our self-assessment tool, you can go to our website, which is 10-collective.com, and download the PDF. And so this wellness wheel was designed by Mindy Atwood, our graphic designer. And so we've just been going through each of the realms here. And so we started with psychological safety a couple months ago, I think. And now we're over here at communication and conflict. So psychological safety is when employees feel included, safe to learn, safe to contribute, and safe to challenge the status quo. And so I think it can be a little confusing, like psychological safety, some of these other terms. What do these things mean? Is it jargony? Is it going to be, are we going to be like holding hands and singing Kumbaya? Or I don't know how many of you saw the piece in the that news about the company in Colorado that went on like a group hiking trip and then left someone on the mountain. horrifying. I'm like, you don't need to do all that. um, a lot of this has to do with creating structure and rules that repeat all the time, and people know what the rules are. And so, not all of this has to be so touchy feely. It actually can just be setting up the right structure to make sure that employees know what the rules and processes and procedures are every time. So this is from our employee wellness self-assessment, communication and conflict. So what you can do is, if you have a pen and paper handy, or maybe just want to do it on your laptop or your phone, but you're going to rate each of these items on a scale from 1 to 5, where 1 is low, 5 is high. And our employee assessment has the rubric, so you can actually see what your score means and look at all of them. But we'll just do these ones right now. So go ahead and rate on a scale from 1 to 5. Team members actively listen to one another and consider different viewpoints. Team members actively listen to one another and consider different viewpoints. Conflicts within the team are handled constructively and respectfully. Conflicts within the team are handled constructively and respectfully. When a conflict with a coworker arises, I know the process to work on resolving it. When a conflict with a coworker arises, I know the process to work on resolving it. Ideas, projects, and tasks are communicated clearly. Ideas, projects, and tasks are communicated clearly. I have a good idea of what our team is working on at all times. I have a good idea of what our team is working on at all times. So one tool, let's see, do I want to switch the order of how I put these in? Yeah, we can start with this. So this is something that I taught in a webinar a few months ago called Beyond EAPs, Better Employee Wellness. And so this is one tool that I really like teaching, and that we can definitely teach with your company if that's something you think would be really helpful. But nonviolent communication starts with this great question: how can I make life more wonderful? I really love this question. And it's one communication technique that employees and staff can learn to have a tool in your tool belt. And so I'll get to this in a second, where there can be a lot of barriers to not communicating well or having good conflict resolution on staff. And one of them is very simple. We may have never actually learned the skills that we need. So the thing about nonviolent communication is that it's a very structured and practice with 4 steps. So even if you're feeling very dysregulated, you can always fall back on these 4 steps to get through these uncomfortable situations. And I've used it in so many professional settings, and I have an example I'll share. But it has worked so well for me every time. And I've even, in the past, I can remember even in my early 20s, one of my first jobs when I worked for Berkeley School of Law at UC Berkeley, I can remember my manager saying, "Wow, I'm your boss, but you handled that conflict so well." And it was because I had studied nonviolent and practiced nonviolent communication. So you can even use it to manage up, as they say, manage your manager. And so this is a practice where we learn to clarify what we're observing, what emotions we're feeling, what values we want to live by, and what we want to ask of ourselves and others. And so we're not using language of blaming, judgment, or domination, and we can experience contributing to others' well-being. So it was created by Dr. Marshall Rosenberg, who grew up in an inner city neighborhood in Detroit and really wanted to explore the causes of violence and what could be done to reduce violence. So he studied clinical psychology, and he was, observing the world and thought, how can I create a framework for peacemaking? So while he was doing work with civil rights activists in the 1960s, mediating conflicts between rioting students and college administrators, this this framework was developed. And so he says, I'm interested in learning that's motivated by reverence for life, that's motivated by a desire to learn skills, to learn new things that help us to better contribute to our own well being and the well being of others. And what fills me with great sadness is any learning that I see motivated by coercion. And that was another webinar that I gave, transforming from coercive control in the workplace to more consent-based workplaces. And I think it's not intuitive to everyone what exactly that means, because we've internalized this idea that coercion is normal. Whereas consent-based is really brings out the best in everyone, saying, hey, can you do this project? I would really love to invite you to do this project. We have an agreement where I give you money and you do work, but it's going to be a lot better for all of us if I get buy-in from you every time we come up with a new work project, compared to coercion, which is you have to do this or you're going to get fired. It tends to really lower morale, lower engagement, lower productivity, and you'll lose employees. So this is a great tool for decreasing coercion. So let me see what time it is, because this is a great video. Um, and so um, let's see. I think we can play just a couple minutes of it. And I think it will share the audio. I haven't shared on LinkedIn Live. I haven't shared the video. So let's see what happens. Okay, hopefully you could hear that. I don't know. I've never tried, so I'll have to go back and listen. Hopefully, I didn't just kind of alienate everybody. On Zoom, you click a button to share the sound. So this LinkedIn Live doesn't have that. Oh. So it's 4 steps: observing when, hey, you were late today; a feeling, I felt frustrated that you were late; a need, I have a need to start the meeting on time because my schedule is so busy and I want to be able to count on us starting on time; and the request, do you think next time you could either arrive on time or reschedule with me? And so I'm going through this kind of fast now to wrap up on time, but it's just always these 4 steps. And so this is the thing when it comes to communication and conflict, and this really covers both, is that if you can have something really structured, people will feel more safe. Oh, yes, I always do this particular thing. So this is the outline. When I see that blank, I feel blank because my need for blank is not met. Would you be willing to? So in the past, I have written this down on a note card and kept it, really close by so that when I'm feeling dysregulated, I can grab it and have this tool handy. And like if I'm in a conflict at work and I really want to fire off an angry email, I remind myself to slow down, practice some sort of regulation activity, maybe go for a walk, and then see if nonviolent communication if this is going to be a situation that's a good opportunity to use this tool. And it almost always is. So as an example, I did grad school at Boston University about 5 years ago. And everyone has to take this intro to leadership class. And I had been working as a leadership coach, a manager coach, for about 5 years at that point. So I really felt that I wasn't getting a lot out of this class. And so there's one way to deal with that, which is to complain, like, this class is so stupid. Why do I have to take this? I hate it. And if I would have approached administration with that, they would have reacted defensively and I wouldn't have been able to get my needs met. And so instead, I thought about what my need was. And I said, this course isn't meeting my need to feel challenged. And when you give people the opportunity to care about you, it benefits everyone. Because when you're going to grad school, say you're giving them a lot of money, and then it really behooves them to care about their students and making sure that, we're getting all of our educational needs met. So I gave them the opportunity to meet my needs, and they ended up matching me with a mentor to instead design some curriculum for the class that ended up getting taught in the class, which was a great challenge for me. So that's what we want to try and slow down and think about. How can I give this person that I have a conflict with the opportunity to care about me, to demonstrate that they care about me? And this is the type of work culture that we're working to create at 10 Collective. So we are winding down on time here, but this is a helpful tool, feelingswheel.com, to identify those feelings. So when we teach this, so if you want to hire us to teach this and work with your staff on this, we will do lots of partner exercises one-on-one to practice, and really get this to be a new habit in the body. So we would love to work with managers, especially. A really good leader, a really good manager and supervisor can make a huge difference for the whole culture at your work. This is something that I really love working with managers on. The practice of empathy. So there can be a lot of blaming, well, John didn't do X, Y, and Z, and he was supposed to. And so then we just want to practice slowing down and asking, well, I wonder how John was feeling. I wonder what came up for John. I wonder if they're experiencing any stress right now. And given that they always try their best, can I be curious about what happened without anger? So we talk a lot about getting work cultures just right. We don't want to neglect employees and, be aloof and never take care of their needs and just pretend like everything's fine. And that can be a huge problem with organizations that have issues with communication and conflict resolution, is that there's a lot of neglect at the top. So like, well, we'll probably just figure it out. Well, we're able to talk, so I'm sure we can communicate, not realizing that it's a whole skill set. And then, of course, there's the high control work environments where you may have someone at the top who has a personality disorder, such as sociopathy or narcissism, and they're really creating a culture of fear and controlling everything. And you may experience a lot of chaos and a lot of control where the communication feels manipulative between all parties and very confusing. So when our work environment feels safe, we do better work. And so this is a graphic that shows that the smart brain, the part that does rational decision making or that has memory, short and long-term memories, is able to problem solve creatively, work with others, can really only come online when our survival brain is not online. So if we're in the fight or flight response, it's going to be really hard for us to do our best work. Not to mention that when we're stressed all the time, overly stressed, our body will start to break down as well. So we'll be taking more sick days. So the thing is that workplaces that are run with a lot of different people with unhealed trauma can actually either re-traumatize employees or create a culture of fear. So there's a couple different things. We may be bringing childhood stress into work with us, but then work may also be actively traumatizing us. And my colleague Bree Twomley did a great webinar about that, about how your organization may be organized around trauma. You can find that on our YouTube channel. And that's here. So there's a couple different ways that the trauma-informed model really helps. So you want to think people are bringing childhood trauma in with them, unhealed trauma, and as a result, maybe creating a culture of trauma in the workplace. And so barriers to good communication and conflict resolution would be that there are no processes in place. So no one knows what to do when they get in a conflict with Katie from marketing. I don't know. We had a conflict. She said she was going to do this thing and she didn't. And I don't know who I'm supposed to talk to. That will make team morale break down so fast. Management setting a poor example for other staff by not improving their skills. If you're a manager or supervisor, you really have to set a strong example for the whole team. And that includes doing your healing work of getting comfortable in your body with conflict and difficult conversations. It could be that staff, you may be one of them, are often dysregulated, making difficult conversations impossible to hold space for in the body. So feeling very, very, very uncomfortable and dysregulated in the body and just not really able to feel strong. Like yes, I can be present for this difficult conversation. And this is especially true for frontline workers. So you may be working with vulnerable populations, like, for example, those struggling with substance misuse disorder, those who are housing insecure, refugees, children that are in foster care, all of these different vulnerable populations where there's a lot of fear and not a lot of security. And now you're experiencing that secondary traumatic stress by being around all of these dysregulated people all the time. This is going to be really hard to then come back and have a difficult conversation, unless, of course, your employer puts really, really good safeguards and structure in place so that okay, when this happens, I know I'm going to do these steps every time. So that really helps decrease the stress. One thing just could be that skills are low. Social emotional learning curriculum, this was not around. I love a lot of this curriculum, and I'm just always think, I really wish we had this in the 90s when I was in school. But just understanding emotions, understanding how to communicate, understanding what people may be going through that is, causing them to be so dysregulated. A lot of us never learn this stuff. And then it could just be that, where you work, they're just not investing in these core skills. And then, of course, that personal and workplace traumas are activated during high stress moments. So if you grew up in an environment where there was a lot of stress, a lot of chaos, and then you're now in a work environment where maybe you're serving families that also have the same level of stress, your unresolved traumas are going to start to become more activated, creating more dysregulation and less skillful communication, as one example. So we recommend doing an organizational assessment, evaluating your processes and procedures. These are both things that we can help you with, that we love to help with. You're going to want standard operating procedures, okay, written out very clearly. Everyone should have a binder, whether it's a physical binder or a PDF on their desktop. That you want people to know, this is what we do every time in this situation. These are the tasks that I'm responsible for, and these are the processes. And that includes communication and conflict resolution processes. So you want to make sure you know what those are, what are people supposed to do. And then next week we'll talk about accountability. You want to make sure that someone is keeping your team accountable, so these processes are followed every time. Make sure that job descriptions match the person's actual job and the tasks they're responsible for. So if you are expecting your employees to have really, really good communication, that starts with how you communicate the job to your employees. So, offering training to employees to grow and practice their skills. And then coaching, of course, is more costly and more intensive, but you're going to get more benefit. So I am not going to go over, some of these slides that I talk about every week, but there is a high cost of doing nothing, not just for your workers, but also for the people they serve. So if you're experiencing high turnover, that really does have an impact on the people that you're serving. They will notice that. Workplace stress is the 5th leading cause of death in the United States as of 2023. So we recommend, if you're watching this, just ask someone if you can work with a coach and grow these skills, or bring us in to do a training with you. So it's an investment in you and your organization. And so I'm going to skip a lot of this, but you can feel free to use our tool to do an assessment internally, if that's what it's here for. We can do training series for all of your employees or for your managers. We can work with your managers and supervisors one-on-one on behavior change. That people have personal histories and stories that they've created that create limiting beliefs. And so when you're working one-on-one with someone, it's possible to really get in there and change those limiting beliefs. So we offer organizational assessments, community assessments, one-on-one manager coaching, leadership development training series, facilitation and support groups. We can also do some really standard public health things like program creation, implementation, and evaluation. So this is within the realm of trauma-informed care. And grant writing, we can do literature reviews, and we can also create educational content for the populations that you serve, such as courses, brochures, PDFs, lots of different things. So just ask. So please feel free to reach out and let us know how we can help you and your organization. And so this is the second to last one of these. And so I will see you next week.